girl got expelled from school for posting this exact picture, but you will seriously not believe the reason why. It was the night of Kayla's 15th birthday when her mom snapped this photo of her at a restaurant in California. Her mom instantly shared it to Facebook and they thought nothing of it. That is until a few days later when Kayla received a furious letter from her school's principal. She was permanently expelled from school, but the reason why will shock you. So Kayla's school was actually a very religious Christian academy named Whitefield Academy. They didn't like that she was wearing a rainbow sweater in front of a rainbow cake, implying that she was part of the LGBTQ community. According to the principal of the school, this goes against their beliefs. This 29-year-old man married a 4-year-old girl, but the reason why will make you cry. Little Abby was diagnosed with cancer at just 2 years old and had spent her whole life in and out of the hospital. She was sad because she just wanted to be a normal girl, but that's when she met her nurse, Matt Hickling. Matt checked up on Abby every single day, but in his heart he felt like she didn't have much time left. So Matt made it his mission to make sure that Abby felt loved and appreciated before she passed away. Abby loved him so much that she actually told her mom that she wanted to marry him one day. However, only a few days later, Matt received a phone call from Abby's mom. Her mom asked him if Matt and Abby could get married, and no, I don't mean legally. A few days later, they had the cutest little wedding at the hospital. Even though it wasn't real, Abby will remember this for the rest of her life. 15 months after her wedding, Abby completed her chemotherapy treatments and is now cancer-free. The infection in The Last of Us game and show is actually based on this very real parasitic fungus that turns certain insects into zombies. And how similar the fungus is in real life to the infection in The Last of Us will freak you out. The creators of the game and the new show were inspired by zombie carpenter ants specifically. The zombies in The Last of Us go through 4 stages of infection which have parallels in nature, and here they are. In the first stage, the infected humans begin to twitch, get hyper, move at high speeds, and eventually lose the ability to speak, and this all happens in ants as well. In stage 2, the zombies have obvious fungal growth that transforms its host's physical shape and gives it a desire to seek out new hosts, which also happens in ants. In stage 3, the zombies rely on echolocation after losing their sight. In real life, zombie ants also become impaired because they start climbing towards light so that they can prepare for stage 4. In stage 4, the zombies become slow-moving bloaters that can excrete spores, which also happens in ants. This school doesn't have any homework, tests, or any classes. At the Agora school in the Netherlands, life is super easy. For starters, everyone gets to customize their own desk, and these guys used a car. At Agora, students are allowed to use their phones and laptops whenever they want. A regular day at Agora goes something like this. First, students start brainstorming with their friends to find out what they should do that day. After that, it's project time, which can be in any of their major facilities, including woodshop. Then after lunch, there's this period called quiet time, where students are encouraged to meditate and sleep in these little pods. But I have to say the absolute best part of this school is the students get to decide when they start and when they go home. This lifeguard accidentally saved someone and actually got in trouble for it. Jessie was a summer lifeguard at her community pool where things were usually pretty slow, but Jessie did her job well. One day she was sitting in the lifeguard chair and suddenly she noticed something odd. It wasn't anything big, just some bubbles from the bottom of the pool, but it was enough to make her worried. She looked a little closer and saw that there was someone at the bottom of the pool, so Jessie knew she had to help. She blew the whistle and dove in. Just like she thought, there was a kid at the bottom of the pool. She tried to bring him up, but he was kicking and yelling. It turns out the kid was actually diving for some rings and wasn't actually drowning. Jessie got lectured by her manager, but she didn't get fired. She was just trying to do the right thing, so I'm not even sure why she got a lecture from her manager, but let me know what you think. This man was married to his wife for 30 years until a car accident reveals who she really is. Tyler and Hannah met in their first year of high school and pretty much fell in love right away. They were 2 high school sweethearts who got married the day after they graduated. 30 years passed and they were still together, but Tyler noticed there was something not right with Hannah. You see, every Tuesday night at midnight since the day they got married, Hannah would leave the house and not come back till morning. On top of that, Hannah would go through insane mood swings and forget what they did the day before. Tyler would wake up in a cold sweat every night just thinking about it, and he needed to know the truth. Little did he know he was about to when the police showed up at his door one Tuesday. They told Tyler that Hannah had been involved in a serious car accident. He rushed into the hospital and into Hannah's room, but you won't believe who was in the bed. It was Hannah's twin sister. They had been swapping places every Tuesday since the day of the wedding. This woman managed to escape from North Korea 2 times. Eun-sun Kim and her mother first tried escaping North Korea for the very first time when she was only 11 years old. They chose to flee into China from the northern border in North Korea. They fled over a frozen river because they made their escape in the winter, but their escape into China didn't last very long. Like many women who tried to escape North Korea, they were sold into human trafficking, and then they were sold back to North Korea by the farmer who bought them, and they were considered traitors by North Korea when they returned. They had to live on the streets as beggars after a number of punishments, and now that they had nothing to lose, the two of them planned another escape. After a couple of months, Eun-sun Kim and her mother planned to flee to China again, but this time live under the radar in Shanghai for 4 years. Now they live in South Korea after being repatriated there. Eun-sun Kim actually wrote this book about her experience in North Korea and her escape. This man woke up with a black eye, but when he finds a note from his wife, he discovers the heartwarming truth. Ryan was a married man who went out one night to party with an old female friend. They were having a great time until Ryan began drinking way too much. His wife was at home with their baby and 10-year-old son, but she had no idea what was about to happen. Ryan stumbled around the bar before getting into the bathroom with his friend and blacking out. When Ryan woke up, he was on his kitchen floor with no recollection of what happened the night before. He went to the bathroom to find out not only did he have a black eye, but that his wife wasn't home and that she left him a note on the kitchen counter. As he started reading, he knew something was terribly wrong, but then he saw a picture was attached and he could not believe his eyes. It turns out Ryan's friend drove him home because he was a little too messed up. When his wife went to undress him for bed, he screamed no, saying he was married. So he never cheated and was loyal to his wife after all. This girl was known as being the ugliest bride in the world, but you won't believe what she looks like now. So in 2011, this couple posted their wedding photos to Facebook and it instantly went viral. Every news page from across the world was calling her the world's ugliest bride. Everyone was commenting how she was ugly, extremely overweight, and had a receding hairline at just 30 years old. This took a toll on her mental health and she became extremely depressed. Things only got worse when her husband left her right after they just had a baby. This completely changed her outlook on life and she finally decided to turn her life around. So she worked out every single day for 4 years straight, and you seriously won't believe what she looks like now. Before I show you, I just found an app where you can make a baby with literally anyone. Just press here on my profile if you want to make a baby too. This is what she looks like today. I'm not kidding. She had the biggest glow up anyone has ever seen. This girl waved at the same cop every single day, but the one day that she doesn't, he finds out the heartbreaking truth. Kayla grew up with her mom and 2 brothers, and they were extremely poor. They lived in a rough area, and after Kayla's mom got into drugs, Kayla was left to feed her siblings. Her life was falling apart, but there was one moment in her day that brought her joy. It was her opportunity to wave to her favorite police officer who patrolled the streets every day. Over the next few months, they met at the exact same spot and waved to each other every single day, and he became a father-like figure for her. However, one day everything changed when the cop went to the regular meeting spot and Kayla wasn't there. He instantly knew something was wrong, so he broke into her house and heard screaming coming from upstairs. He found Kayla on the floor, pale and shivering. The cop immediately rushed her to the hospital, saving her life. Kayla made a full recovery and is actually now training to become a cop herself. The safest country in the world is Iceland. The crime rate is so low there that the police don't even carry guns, and they're pretty much friends with everyone. The SWAT team does possess firearms, but they never have to use them. That's because the murder rate is from 0 to 1.5 a year, but there's almost no reason to commit any crimes. An entire college degree costs less than a month's rent, almost nobody is out of work, and if you get fired, the government's got your back. Plus, they're the most gender equal country in the entire world, and their pride is the only one that's never been protested. And there's no dangerous animals except for the Arctic fox, which is so cute and doesn't even bother anyone, and they don't even have mosquitoes. It's so safe that people will leave their babies alone in public for hours at a time. They just know that nobody's gonna take them. This mother sold her dead son's bed, but you won't believe why the buyer returned it 1 week later. Before she could give birth, Valerie Watt's son died and she didn't know what to do with his belongings after he passed away. So she decided to sell everything in a yard sale about a year later. Her son's crib was purchased by a man named Gerald, who decided to do something special while he was driving home with her son's crib. Gerald took the crib, turned it into a chair, and then gave it back to her so she could use it to sit around in her house. Now she can keep the memory of her son in her room. This young soldier was made fun of for believing in God until a miracle happens. During World War II, an 18-year-old boy named Matt was bullied every day just for believing in God. One day his commander called him over just to make fun of him in front of everyone. He ordered Matt to park a jeep in front of the military base. Matt explained he had no idea how to drive. Then the commander screamed, "Why don't you ask for assistance from your so-called God?" And everyone laughed. Even though Matt was scared, he took the keys and drove the jeep, just like the commander asked. He stepped out of the jeep to see all of the soldiers in tears. Even the commander took his hat off in disbelief of what he just saw. Matt was completely confused until the commander opened up the hood of the jeep. He opened the hood of the jeep to reveal there was no engine. Matt cried and said, "See, this is the God that I serve. Now share this story if you believe in miracles." The nurse put this dying baby beside her twin sister to say goodbye, but it's what happens after that will make you cry. Twin sisters Kyrie and Brielle Jackson were born in Massachusetts in 1995. They were born 2 months early, so they were struggling to breathe and stay alive. So they were put in separate incubators to make sure they would stay alive. As the days passed, Kyrie's condition got better while Brielle's got worse. She was turning blue and was just barely alive. Brielle was dying and the nurse was doing everything she could to help her, but it wasn't working. A few days later, the nurse decided it was finally time to let go. So she put Brielle beside Kyrie to say one last goodbye. But as she felt the presence of her twin sister, something amazing happened. The nurse couldn't believe it. Brielle began to breathe normally again and made a full recovery. This is Kyrie and Brielle today, happy and healthy. Lionel Messi spent over $250 million on his 3 most expensive purchases. And at number 3, his custom $15 million private jet. With 16 seats, a full kitchen, TVs, and on the steps, it even spells out all of his family's names. But at number 2, Messi's $35 million purchase almost got stolen by Ronaldo. Since him and Messi wanted the exact same car and there was only one left, everything came down to an auction. But when Messi showed up, he proved who the real GOAT is and spent $35 million on a Ferrari Spider. But at number 1, Messi's most expensive purchase ever cost more than life itself. Messi wanted his fans to have a place that would create the most fun they've ever had, with entertainment like theaters, holographic technology, and virtual reality. This place even allows fans to relive Messi's rise to fame. So Messi became the only football player ever to have his own $200 million theme park. Terrifying things said by astronauts. One of the most mysterious aspects of the moon landing is Neil Armstrong's first words when he stepped on the lunar surface. Most of us were taught that his famous quote was, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." However, NASA has disclosed that there was a 2-minute transmission loss just before Armstrong's famous words were spoken. During this lost transmission, Armstrong reportedly made an unsettling statement to NASA. Multiple sources have confirmed he said, "These babies are huge, sir. Enormous. Oh God, you wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there are other spacecrafts out here lined up on the far side of the crater's edge. They're on the moon watching us." This statement was never heard by the public as the transmission was cut off for 2 minutes and Armstrong never mentioned it again. Worst ways people have died. Part 9. In 1995, a group of Polish men were drinking when it was suggested they strip naked and play some, quote, men's games. Initially, they hit each other over the head with frozen turnips, but then one man upped the ante by amputating the end of his foot using a chainsaw. Not to be outdone, Krzysztof Asninski grabbed the saw and shouted, "Watch this then," as he swung the chainsaw towards his neck and cut his own head off. In 1993, Gary Hoy was an attorney who really took pride in the strength of the windows in his skyscraper office. One day he decided to impress some incoming students by throwing himself against the glass of the 24th floor office windows. The first time the window held as it always had before, but on the second try the window popped out of the frame and Hoy plunged to the pavement below where he died from his injuries. This is what your eye color says about you. If you have blue eyes, you're very smart and don't need to study for an exam because you'll still ace it. If you have hazel eyes, you make a perfect friend and would do anything for the people you love. Now, on the other side, if you have amber eyes, you have to study for every single test and still end up getting C's and D's. If you have brown eyes, you have the full package. You're very smart and very athletic. But you won't believe what it means if you have green eyes. If you have green eyes, this means you're a king or queen because you have the best eye color. And I promise this is not bias at all. Worst ways Ways People Have Died, Part 8. In 1601, Tycho Brahe was at a feast when he really needed to use the restroom, but he was a real nobleman and thought it would be rude to leave during the feast. So he remained in place for several hours, and when he arrived home, he was only able to pee in very short, agonizing spurts. It turns out holding it in for so long caused his bladder to burst, and within a few days he was dead. In 2016, a 69-year-old Florida man finished going number 2 at a Walgreens restroom when suddenly staff didn't let him leave the store because they discovered he, quote, pooped all over the bathroom. They demanded very publicly that he clean up his awful mess, which he obliged, but the sheer embarrassment and distress caused him to go into cardiac arrest and he passed away. Worst Ways People Have Died, Part 7. In 2018, Charles Wood Jr. was at a Jack in the Box drive-thru when he realized that he was too far away to take his food from the restaurant worker. So he opened his car door and stretched out to grab his meal, but unfortunately in doing so he rested his foot on the gas pedal in his car, which was in reverse. This sent him hurtling backwards into a tree, which sandwiched him in between the two objects, causing severe injuries which took his life. In 1650, Greek philosopher Heraclitus developed dropsy, which is the accumulation of fluid under the skin, and he thought that if he buried himself in cow manure, it would draw out some of the fluid. Unfortunately, when he put his theory to the test, the cow manure dried around him and formed a sort of body cast, which made him immobile. And to make matters even worse, that's when a pack of dogs found and devoured him alive.